In western Sudan lies Darfur, one of the 5 provinces in the Republic of Sudan. Approximately, Darfur is the size of Spain, containing the breathtaking Mara Mountain Range and Daju Hills, with parts of the Sahara Desert in the north and vast plains in the east. Sadly, this beautiful province has been engulfed in chaos. Over the last few decades, Darfur has been a battleground for the First and Second Sudanese Civil War. And since 2003, the Darfurian people have been victims to a state-sponsored genocide. Though, to understand the whole picture, we will have to go to 1899, a little over a century before the genocide, when Darfur and all of Sudan was a royal colony of the British Empire. Prior to the independence of Sudan, Sudan was governed alongside Egypt as part of Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, governed by a governor-general appointed by Egypt with the consent of Britain. Though the British administration of Anglo-Egyptian Sudan led to major nationalistic backlash from both Egyptians and Sudanese, with Egyptian nationalist leaders determined to force Britain to recognize a single independent union of Egypt and Sudan. In Sudan, the British had an administrative policy practically separating Sudan into north and south, the northern majority being made up of Muslims, and the southern minority being mostly made up of Christians and animists. These changes not only raised tensions with Britain, but within Sudan itself. Following 1952, the Egyptian revolution led by Muhammad Naguib and Gamal Abdel Nasser aimed to overthrow King Farouk, the 10th ruler of the Muhammad Ali dynasty. Though the revolution also had bigger ambitions, not only trying to remove the constitutional monarchy and aristocracy, but also British occupation.
In February of 1953, the United Kingdom and Egypt concluded an agreement providing for Sudanese self-governance and self-determination.
The world has gained a new nation. The Sudan, for 58 years under the joint rule of Britain and Egypt, becomes an independent republic. The Proclamation of Independence is read from the balcony of the House of Representatives in Khartoum, and the new flag is hoisted. Blue for the Nile, yellow for the desert, green for agriculture. A 5-man Supreme Commission will act for the time being as head of state. A joint session of the Senate and the House of Representatives hears the new republic proclaimed. Premier El Azari thanks Britain and Egypt for giving his country freedom to work out its own destiny.
Consequently, internal tensions raised between the North and the South. The first Parliament of Sudan was inaugurated in 1954. On August 18, 1955, Southern rebels revolted in the army because the Southern Sudanese feared the Northern Sudanese majority-controlled government. This led to the beginning of the First Sudanese Civil War. The Civil War was fought between the Sudanese government and the Southern rebels who wanted greater autonomy. Economic uncertainty and political difficulties led to a few coups and elections that had many rulers go by very quickly, such as Prime Minister Ismail al-Azari, Major General Ibrahim Aboud, and Prime Minister Muhammad Ahmad Majoub.
كل السودانيين دول احبابنا عدا ناس المؤتمر الوطني للمجرمين. عشان كده الرساله المهمه توصلوها لهم، انتوا دايرين تبقوا حكام السودان بكره، دايرين تبقوا عنصريين برضه ما بيجي. عشان كده اصلا ما تميزوا بين الناس، ما تسيئوا، لغتكم اللي تستخدموها مهمه جدا، ما تسيئوا لاي مواطن. انتم مشكلتكم لازم تعرفوا عدوكم تحديدا. الزول لو ساهموا ده وجهوا لجهه ثانيه بيخرب القصه كلها، وجهوا لعدوك في صدره.
The Second Civil War began due to long-standing issues, and in 1987, the Civil War was reignited from a 10-year hiatus, where North and South Sudan experienced a period of self-rule.
The Second Civil War was an extension of the first, splitting Sudan between the Central Sudan government and the newly organized rebel group known as the Sudan's People Liberation Army. The North had economic assistance from their Islamic ally Iran, while the South had foreign aid from neighboring Christian nations Uganda, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. The war was destroying Sudan, especially affecting the climate of Darfur, a Christian region in northern Islamic Sudan.
In 1989, the government and southern rebels began to negotiate an end to the war. but a coup brought a military junta into power, which was not interested in compromise. The leader of the group, Omar al-Bashir, consolidated his power over the next few years and declared himself president of Sudan.
During the course of the Second Civil War, the Darfurian conflict took a dark turn in 2003. The Sudanese government armed the radical Islamist group known as the Janjaweed, meaning devils on horseback. The Janjaweed, led by Musa Hilal, regularly raided Darfurian towns, raping, slaughtering, and torching the infrastructure. Survivors say the attacks usually start at dawn, with bombs falling from planes of the Sudanese Air Force. And then here come the Janjaweed on camelback or on horseback, Prendergast says. They come rolling into the town, shooting and torching the village, often bringing women to the side and raping women indiscriminately. These acts of terror led to the displacement of approximately 2,800,000 Darfurian people, and the deaths of 480,000 non-Arabic and Darfurian people by 2017. With the support of the Sudanese government led by President Omar al-Bashir, there was no one to stop the Janjaweed while the world watched Darfur burn.
I now give the floor to a representative of United Nations Watch.
Thank you, Mr. President. The nations represented here gather at a momentous time, the 60th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In what manner can we pay tribute? We can pay tribute by protecting the most fundamental of all human rights, the right to life. Mr. President, nowhere is this right being violated more than in Darfur, as well as every other right guaranteed in the Declaration, and by no one more than the government of Sudan. In Senegal, there is now a critical summit underway to address Darfur. But yesterday, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and African, US, and European diplomats were kept waiting for hours with no sign of Sudan's President Bashir. In a phone call to the President of Senegal, President Bashir explained that he had a headache. Mr. President, who will tell the victims of Darfur that their suffering will be prolonged because the President said he had a headache?
After several years of failed resolution, the United Nations was unable to recognize or act on Darfur since a unanimous vote was needed in order to take action. The one roadblock was China, one of the 5 members to possess veto power, who had several construction contracts, bought oil, and sold weapons and technology to and from the Sudanese government. However, one individual that tried to bring light to the Darfur genocide despite the lack of intervention from the international community was Dr. Eric Reeves, a professor of English at Smith College who wrote on the conflict taking place. Reeves was among the first to call it a genocide and fought for its recognition, both writing about it in The Guardian as well as consulting for several human rights organizations based in Sudan. In 2008, the UN finally voted on the deployment of a peacekeeping unit called the United Nations African Union Mission, or UNAMID, on the one condition employed by the Chinese government that the UN invited Sudan's consent. The UNAMID have since been trying to monitor and suppress the atrocities taking place in Sudan as much as they possibly can. However, the ethnic cleansing still continues to this very day. Every day, more people are slaughtered, displaced, and go hungry. The Janjaweed militias still regularly attack villages, hijack UN supply convoys, and due to the constant combat, the number of UNAMID units have been significantly depleted and are losing strength.
Today, Pre-Trial Chamber 1 of the International Criminal Court, composed of Judge Akua Kwenyehia from Ghana, the presiding judge, Judge Anita Uchaska from Latvia, and Judge Sylvia Steiner from Brazil, issued a warrant of
arrest of the Sudanese president,
Omar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir.
Omar al-Bashir has been named an international war criminal
for war crimes,
genocide,
and crimes against humanity.
The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court says President al-Bashir has masterminded a genocide in Darfur
as an indirect perpetrator for intentionally directing attacks against an important part of the civilian population of Darfur, Sudan, murdering, exterminating, raping, torturing, and forcibly transferring large numbers of civilians and pillaging their property. This is the first warrant of arrest ever issued for a sitting head of state by the International Criminal Court.
أنا بقول ده كله ما حصل يعني حتى المناطق اللي استعادتها القوات المسلحة.
All these allegations are baseless. None of these reports are true. We challenge anyone to visit the areas recaptured by the armed forces and find a single village that has been torched. In fact, there hasn't been any aerial bombing. Not a single village was destroyed. But
the bombing campaign in civilian areas has intensified in recent months, and the Sudanese Air Force has started dropping bombs attacked to parachutes from its new Sukhoi 24 fighter jets. The first of these bombs was seen November 17th in a bombing in Tabania. 2 people were killed.
Are you asking the UN to leave?
The UN forces and UNAMID have no vital role to play. And now as peace has returned to Darfur, I think that they have no role to undertake, and that's why we want them to leave.
Now, the International Criminal Court has charged you with multiple counts of genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity. Are you worried that the warrants may be served at any point in the future?
This is a politicized tribunal. You were with us in Darfur, and you have seen for yourself how the huge crowds came to greet me. These are the same crowds I'm accused of having committed genocide and ethnic cleansing against them. This is why I've defied the tribunal, and I've been traveling freely around the world. I took advantage of my defiance of the ICC to mobilize the Sudanese people in the last election to support me.